Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group. I'm the advertising manager, and I get to be your host today. Today, we want to thank our sponsor, A Place to Weave. If you're interested in learning more about them, Google them. And also, we've put their email and website in the chat. What an interesting place. Go check them out. We want to thank them for being our sponsor today. As always, please put your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. Sometimes I can see the chat, but not very often. It's better if it's in the Q&A. But we love your comments. Keep those coming. Those are great. Today, we will take questions at the end, as always. And today we have Suzi Ballenger. Suzi is raised in Indiana, my home state. Yay. She has an MFA. She's a Rhode Island hand weaver, fiber artist, and educator known for thinking outside the box. And we'll see that today in her talks. She has a curiosity for materials that stimulates her language of craft, believing in the fullest expression of a fiber can be realized through observation, rhythm, and structure. This communication breaks boundaries to reveal unexpected beauty and inspiration. When not in the studio, Suzi can be found outside in the garden, swimming in the ocean, or walking on local trails. We are so excited to have her here today. Hey, Suzi.
Hi.
Yay. Welcome.
Thank you, Kathy.
We're so excited to have you here.
Yes, and you all know that I'm nervous.
Okay, everybody, she's nervous, so be kind.
Oh, anyways, yes.
You'll be fine. Well, let's start off with something easy. What's your favorite tea?
My favorite tea, all-time favorite, is Trader Joe's turmeric and ginger. And if I'm not having that, then believe it or not, I drink black red rose decaf black tea with creamy sugar.
That's a new one. Red rose tea. I've never heard that one. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So how did you get started in fiber?
Well, I was raised in the 60s, and like everybody else, my mom had a sewing machine and sewed my little sisters and mine clothes. So there was always a sewing machine in the house. And then long about 5th, 6th grade, my neighbor next door, she and I started embroidering, and we would sit on her bed and listen to Motown, and I would just keep embroidering and embroider. Remember, we all wanted those cool patches from the 60s on our jeans and everything, right? So, and then in high school, there was an art center in town. And so I started doing batik, and I did a little bit of macrame, but I didn't like it as much. And I did some crochet, but it was mostly batik and embroidery that I did when I was a teenager.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So you got an MFA. Where did you get your MFA from?
I got my MFA from UMass Dartmouth, and it was a master's degree in artisanry and fibers, which is very different than what I started off with. I got my undergrad degree was in journalism and public affairs.
Okay. All right. Well, in talking about that, I appreciate artist journeys. And whenever you talk to someone, it's never, oh, I started here and then I went straight to there. There's always that little winding road. And you're the same, is that you've got this degree in journalism and public affairs.
Right.
So I'm curious, did the things that you study, the classes that you took, your experiences in those degrees, did they impact also on your art degree or what you do as a professional artist?
Sort of. So when I majored in journalism, I was the layout and design editor of the school newspaper. And it taught me how to see in black and white and to see, like, to really appreciate blank space. And this was back in, I was still typing. I was doing typesetting on a CompuGraphic machine, which came out one line at a time. We waxed it. We slapped it down on I didn't even have a light table. It was just all graph paper, angle. And so I also learned how to see a straight line without a ruler. Right. So anyways, that's how, and then my, because I always liked fiber, I bought a loom in 1982, had no idea how to use it, had never seen one being used. I bought it from somebody and we were moving across the country 2 weeks later. So I had to buy a book and teach myself how to use the loom. And I had a newborn
Wow.
baby too. So
Oh my
kept me
gosh, you're a brave soul.
yeah.
We're going to look at some of your works right here. This one is an interesting combination of steel, right? And the
Yes.
weft. So
Yes.
you're not afraid to try something different or unusual. And I love it because the warp and the weft couldn't be more opposite, right? So would you talk some about this work?
Yep. Thank you for asking. The warp is linen and uh, the weft is stainless steel, but it's a stainless steel core and it has wool wrapped around it. It's one of the Habu textiles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but that fine stainless steel gives you a sense of structure. It also allows the spaces in the warp to behave. Like if it was elastic, it wouldn't work. So you want something that's going to hold the position and hold that straight. And the linen has just enough tooth to it to hold all those pieces in place.
Wow. Wow. That's good. How wide is this piece?
This is about, I think, probably 22 to 25 inches.
Wow. Okay. All right. This is another unusual project that we're going to look at now.
What?
Because this is another unusual project. I love this. I just vision you going, hey, I have some leftover hand woven. What can I do? Oh, let's make shoes. So how did you come up with this idea?
Okay, well, this is a story.
Oh, we love stories.
Um, Back in 1982, when I decided I needed to do everything in the most difficult way possible, including teaching myself how to weave, right? At this point, I'm sewing all of my clothes and my children's clothes on a treadle sewing machine, just for fun. And I came across this magazine called Decorating and Craft Ideas, and on the cover were espadrilles. And it said, make your own espadrilles, and it gave a pattern on how you could crochet your own sole. And so, of course, I did it. And I made a pair for me and my kids and the people that I know. And I copied the pattern down in my journal. I copied it word for word, took notes as to where I found it. And then in 2016, I was teaching a multi-level weaving class at UMass Dartmouth. And I had to think of something. I needed a project. So I went back through my journal and I was like, oh, I wonder if anybody would be interested in making shoes. So I assigned it to the students and they flipped out. It was absolutely hands down the coolest project. These students like completely embraced it. They're like making their own soles. They're weaving. This one girl wove thigh highs. I mean, it was just incredible. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And they embraced it. They copied patterns off the internet. Somebody did Tom's shoes, someone else. It was just a great project and I haven't stopped since. So
So you're still making shoes?
yes.
Oh, good. Somebody just commented from Connecticut saying, we had so much fun making those
Oh,
shoes.
oh my gosh. Well, Connecticut was my trial guild. I was like,
Ah,
so hey, you guys want to do this for free and help me work out the bugs? It was a great group. Thank you, Connecticut Handweavers Guild.
oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Well, I was, like I do everybody, I was stalking you on the internet, looking at all your materials and what you do and at your Instagram. And your pictures on your Instagram kind of told me a little bit about you in color. They were colorful, they were bright. And this is a great example. I saw these jelly beans and I thought, of course. Then I saw, I think these are dish towels. And I
Mhm.
was like, this has to be the inspiration for the towels, but maybe not. And if they are or not, where do you find your inspiration?
Um, well, I find my inspiration for color all around me. There's no bad color combinations. And I've often said to people that the stripes that I do are really pretty much my attention span. So yeah, I'm done with this color. I'm going to do another one or another one. But the original inspiration reminded me of Madras cloth from the 1960s,
Mhm.
those pale blue and pale pink colors that never repeated themselves. And and the lightweight Madras cloth. But anyways, that's what started all of this. And then the jelly beans just like showed up on my table one day. And I was like, yeah, it was just, yeah, it matched perfectly, couldn't resist.
Um, so there was so much I wanted to ask you,
Okay.
and there was, not enough time. So I'm going to do my 10 top questions. Okay.
All right.
You can give me short or long answers. And if
Oh,
there's a
good.
story, jump in there. We love stories. All right.
Okay.
What's your favorite weave structure?
M's and O's. And anybody who knows me knows that it's M's and O's.
Why?
Oh my gosh, because it is the most versatile. You can do absolutely anything with M's and O's, absolutely anything. And I like it because it distorts the weft.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
that's
I'm
why.
going to go have to look at my M's and O's stuff after this.
Absolutely.
Have you had at least one, maybe you have had several big aha moments, kind of like, oh my gosh, kind of things?
Mm-hmm. All right. So, yes, my biggest aha moment was back in 2008. I had a friend of mine cut off the top of my reed. And I was convinced that I had discovered a way to easily do lino lace, right? And so I cut out, I'm all thumbs and, just a mess at the loom. So I've got my loom threaded, the top is off of the reed, and I pick up the threads and I start crossing them like this. And then I put the top back on the beater and I go to make a shed, and it didn't make a shed because you can't cross the threads when they're already in the heddles, right? So that I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I figured out that, of course I can spread the threads apart and together or apart and together, but I can't crisscross them. That was a different research project.
But you know what I love is that you tried it.
I did. Failed big time.
I know, but you tried it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I have ideas and I don't even bother to follow it through. At least you did. Good for you.
Thank you. That was
Oh,
my big
back to our
aha.
list.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
What's your favorite yarn?
Oh, I like cellulose. I like bast fibers like linen, hemp, cottons. My favorite right now that I'm working with is sisal. I like twine. I like rope, that sort of stuff.
Sisal. Talk about sisal. I haven't heard that word in forever. Sisal.
Sisal is like baling twine, like what you would see on the outside of a straw bale or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not plied, and it's got this great texture. And when you stick it in water, it gets all squiggly. It's fun. It's got this action that you would never expect. It's wonderful. It's not very gentle on the hands, but it still is
Oh, I
fun
bet
to
not.
work with. Mm.
I think that's some of your hippie days coming through too. Didn't we all have sisal floor coverings back then?
We probably all had handbags too. Sisal
Yes,
handbags.
yes, yes.
Mhm,
All
mhm.
right. If I were not weaving, I would like to be doing or saying or being what?
I'm usually, if I'm not weaving or making something, I'm usually in the kitchen cooking or playing with my grandchildren or picking in the backyard. We have a small homestead kind of place. And so we're always like picking food or cooking food, and I do a lot of canning. Like we can all of our food. Like, oh, thanks for the thumbs up, other folks. There must be some other people who do that too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
All right. The more shafts, the better. True or false?
It's all about the loom. It's,
Yeah.
I don't think shafts matter. I think it's all about the loom. And I would say fewer shafts, but the reason I say it's about the loom, it's because the only like a loom's number one job is to hold threads taut, right?
Right.
So a shedding mechanism is an addendum to the loom. Look at all the Peruvian textiles and the ancient textiles where people are holding on to warp strings with their toes and leaning backwards. It's it's the way the warp is manipulated, and you can do that with your hands, but or you can do it with sticks, you can do it with shuttles, you can do it with anything. So I really think it's the loom that's the most important, and your imagination and your ability to manipulate threads.
I've never heard somebody explain it that way before. That's pretty
Uh-oh.
cool. And you're right. I never thought about it, but it is the tension.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks. Well, maybe some of you had already heard it. I don't know. All right. Which is more important to you, pattern or color?
Neither. It's
You see
structure.
people say both. You're like neither.
Oh, no. Um, no, it's about structure and fiber. Like for me, the whole point of weaving, I mean, sure, I can like make fancy schmancy patterns, which is nice, and I love using color, but you're not going to have anything if you don't have structure. And if you're not using the right fiber, you don't get the personality of the fiber doesn't show through. So it's like building, right? So you're doing one layer at a time. So it's the architecture of the cloth that's the most important.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's a good answer.
Okay. I'm afraid I'm
Um,
going to fail by answering wrong.
yeah, we're keeping score here, Susie. All right. All right. The person who most influenced your weaving. Maybe
Well,
persons.
persons. You're right. It's persons.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of teaching, I have to say that the people who influence me the most are the students. Whether I'm
Really?
teaching a workshop, oh yeah, how they respond, the questions that they ask, um, the way they see things, the way they want to solve problems, that influences me the most. And that's an everyday sort of influence. But as far as what has influenced my my weaving as a whole, it would be technical books from authors like Hooper and Nisbet and Alan Fannin, or some of the other books by Anne Sutton. I taught myself how to weave from Ozma Gallinger Todd's book, and Peggy Osterkamp, Peter Collingwood, Lenore Tawney, Ruth Asawa, all those artists that bring textiles from the second dimension into a different one.
Wow. You've thought about this. I can tell. All right. I think I know the answer to this, and we've kind of
Okay.
said that in the opening.
Yep.
Indoor versus outdoor.
Oh, outdoor all the way, baby. Outdoors as
Does
much as
outdoors
possible.
influence your weaving? Is it an inspiration or?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. When I'm going for a walk, well, a lot, I'm walking all those, like even now, it's springtime, all those bazillion shades of green. Like it's amazing. And you can even see red in the green this time of year because of all the buds on the trees. Or I'm walking in the woods and you see a branch broken or a tree bent over, any of those things, all of those shapes. Yeah, absolutely outdoors.
What's your favorite color?
Well, this has a story.
Oh,
My husband, my husband once asked me, "So what's your favorite color?" And I said, "Oh, orange, like Kubota orange, like the backhoe, right? Oh, it's orange." He goes, "Oh, that's my favorite color." And I said, "Oh, then my favorite color is green." And he said, "Oh, that's my daughter's favorite color." I was like, "All right, then fine. My favorite color is yellow." He goes, "That's my other daughter's favorite color." I was like, "All right, I have to get some independence here." Brown. Oh, I hate brown. So I like all colors. I don't have a favorite or a least favorite. I like them all.
Do you find you use a color more than others? Not necessarily because it's your favorite, but that it's kind of like your workhorse of color.
Shades of orange.
Do you
Shades of orange.
really?
Oh yeah. I
Orange
think,
is tough. Good for you.
yep. Oranges, yellows, all those colors. Yep.
Huh. All
Mm,
right, I have to ask this
okay.
because my husband has a backhoe, and
What color is
it
it? A
came down to
caterpillar?
it between me or the backhoe, I would be history. So how did you get to Kubota? Not most people even know what Kubota is. How did you get to Kubota orange?
Well, it's kind of a joke because we have, like I said, we have a small farm. And so you need a backhoe, right?
Yep.
To dig and to do all these things. So it was just, it started off as a joke, but now we just say it's Kubota orange. I don't really like Caterpillar yellow or,
John
Farmall
Deere
red or
green.
John Deere green. It's just sort of like, just silly talk that we say. And Kubota orange really is more like a safety orange color, and it's not really.
I can't wait to tell my husband. He'll crack up. All right. Last one.
Mm.
You have been given a interview program similar to Textiles and Tea, but you can't have mine.
Okay.
Who would you interview? Who would you want to interview? Dead or alive? It doesn't even have to be alive.
Okay. All right. Well, this is sort of off the wall, but I would love to hear from a net maker, someone who makes trawl nets or gill nets for industry. I'd love to see how they do it by hand. Like there's a place in southern Rhode Island that still makes nets by hand and repairs them. But I've never had the guts to walk in and say, "Hey, can I watch you do that?" So watching and there's a measurement that people have to take. So watching that or talking to somebody who makes fishing nets, trawl nets for a living, I think would be interesting. Um, I also think it would be interesting to watch somebody or talk to somebody who ties flies for fishing. I mean, they use super knots. Some people who tie flies like use pheasant feathers or polar bear fur to make these, and they use certain threads and the way they wrap and I think that would be fascinating. It has nothing to do with textiles, but it's about thread and tension and
That's
technique. So that's
and
probably,
that's textiles. That's
yeah.
textiles.
So that's what I would, yeah, I would love to do that. I just think that'd be interesting.
You're definitely out of the box. I love it. I love it. All right, that
Oh
was
no.
fun. Um, you have explored using space in the warp and the weft. Kind of, I don't know if it's crammed and dent, but it's really interesting. And the work is called Splintered, and we're going to show that here in just a second. And we have a close up with it too. What does the space mean for you? Is it just a visual thing, or is there more to it?
Space, space to me is an action word. It is, it denotes freedom. It is,
There we go.
it's the action of taking a warp thread and moving it past your expectations. So there's a little bit of rebellion in there, but it's also freedom. That freedom to not be stuck in this straight on intersection. It is it is understanding your fibers and talking to them and having a conversation about what they are capable of and how they want to express themselves. And yeah, yeah, it leaves a different impression to me, excuse me, when I'm weaving, and it's a very, yeah, it's an intuitive process as opposed to super mathematical and exact.
Hmm.
Oh,
Okay, I get that. I get that. Now, somebody's going to ask, so I'm going to just jump in here and do it now. What are these made out of?
this is 8/4 cotton carpet warp and pineapple fiber. Pineapple
Pineapple.
fiber is the weft. Again, it was something that came from Habu. And this is an 8/4 carpet weft. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think I said it's probably set at about 20 ends per inch. And the spaces, probably a quarter of that is open space. So whatever the full width was, which is like 27, about 4 inches, 4 or 5 inches is open space, moved in different ways.
You also do paper making. I did not know that until I started reading about you. So this next work is called Water Spider.
Yeah.
How did you get started doing this media? Was this something that you explored in college? Did you pick this up later?
Mm. Oh, well, when I went back to school for my MFA, I went back in 2018. All right. I'm 57 years old. I've already been weaving for 40 some odd years, maybe 38 years. And my advisor, Charlotte Hamlin, was like, Susie, you've got to get off the loop. You are here to learn something. How can you bring this energy to something else? Because you already know how to weave, Susie. So she really encouraged me to take what I love about weaving, which was fibers, playing with all different kinds of fibers. She started wagging her finger at me and saying, stop using the word play, Susie. You are researching. This is research for your MFA, and this is serious work. I was like, okay, Charlotte. So I started exploring and researching paper. I made paper, I beat it by hand, I beat it in machines, I beat it in the blender. I cooked it too much, I cooked it not enough. I gathered plants from my yard and I cooked those. And I started manipulating, practicing, and finding different ways to get that fiber that I have my hands in. How can I get it to express itself?
Hmm.
How can I get it to have this personality that I can feel, but how do I get it to, have a little bit more than a flat, soft, just look like something that came out of a Xerox machine. And so I learned to see fiber with a different lens, and it makes me, it definitely informs the way I weave now,
Mhm.
because um, because it's way more tactile.
Huh. Now, I'm assuming this is paper you made and then could put
Yes.
together or sculpted or whatever.
Yes, it is. Yep, it's paper. It's abaca, which is a banana plant, and it was
Oh.
inspired by, I was walking, and you know how in the early spring the water spiders are jumping along the top of the water like this, right? So I was like, oh, I wonder what it would feel like if I could touch it or things like that. So I went back and I layered sisal in between the paper and some ropes. I stitched it by hand, and then I also stitched it on the machine so that, trying to impress this uh, experience of movement, but I couldn't touch it.
Hmm.
So
Um,
that's where that came from.
we've got a couple more images of your paperwork. Would you compare working with paper versus yarn or paper making versus weaving?
Mm.
What's the similarities, differences for you?
The similarities are both both artistic practices require rhythm. They require attention to what you're doing. There's a rhythm to threading the loom. Let's start over. There's a rhythm to winding the warp, to beaming the warp, to threading the loom, to slaying the reed, to throwing the shuttle, to treadling the pattern. Those are all rhythms that our bodies need to be tuned into. And in paper making, the rhythm is a little different. There's a slurry and it's kind of wet and a little bit messy, but I find myself bowing before the vat, which is really like honoring the paper. You know, just like when you sit in front of the loom, you center yourself so that you're right in the center and so that your butt bones are even and you're not going to get, all uncomfortable. Well, with paper making, it's the same sort of thing. You're bowing, you're lifting, you're cooching, you're doing processes that require your attention, and everything that you do then tells you what you've done. Just like weaving, it talks back to you. It tells you the history of what you've done. Just like paper making, it's the history of what you've done to it. It's kind of cool.
So on the paper that we just saw, I'm assuming you made the paper and then added it into the weaving. Sorry, Mandy, I should have jumped on that a little sooner.
Yeah.
Same, on both of these pieces?
On both of these pieces, it's all handmade paper. On the piece on my left, which I don't know if that's everybody else's left, the ones with all the different colored pieces,
Mhm.
those are papers that I made and then I pressure printed them. I printed them on a Vandercook press, and then I cut them and I put them into, I used the weaving as a substrate to insert the papers. And I wanted it to look like, so I saw a sunset, but it was up in the sky and it looked like those colors were coming toward me. So that was what that piece is reaching out, but it's not looking straight on, it's coming like from the back. And the other one, you'll notice that the papers are cockled a little bit and they're not as smooth and they're all white. Well, those are dried without restraint so that they move a little bit more and they have, you get a lot more texture in them that way.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that piece is actually um, hemp rope for the warp that I dyed in indigo, and the weft is sisal.
Oh, okay. All right, all right. Did you dye it?
I did. I dyed it.
Oh
I
my
dipped
gosh,
it
you're a
in.
dyer also.
No, 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 no,
No, no,
no.
no, no.
I just try. Yeah, I'm just like a kitchen witch, right? Oh, let me see what happens when I do this.
I have a newt.
Absolutely. Mm.
Ah, you were president of HGA board, and I want to thank you for your service. It's a lot of work, and those of us in the office do appreciate what our board presidents have to do. So for me and everybody else, we say thank you for your service. But I'm curious, other than the nuts and bolts things, what were some of the things that you took away from having that role? Because it was what, 2 years, a year and a
Mhm.
half, something like
It
that?
was 2 years. Um, and before I start, thank you, Kathy, and all of the staff, and Elizabeth, and all of the directors for sharing a vision. Um, that's really, I jumped into HGA with its idealism, and leaving the role of president, I still have that idealism because I fully appreciate that everything we do is is part of the mission. And I'm task oriented and there's a strategic plan. And so that sets out goals and, oh, there's this task that needs to be done and this task that needs to be done. And I appreciate those. And I have come to fully appreciate the pace of committee work. which is hard, but I like it because it's it allows you to hear from all other people. There's not just one way to solve a problem or one way to approach it. There's many ways to approach it. And the other thing about HGA is I feel like I am with a group of people that feel the same way that I do.
Mhm.
And so I don't have to justify myself in any way. It's like we all have this passion and there we are. And we're all doing something for the same reasons. That's what, there it is.
Well, the other thing I was curious about, and it's kind of goofy, but did you find that people came up to you and knew who you were because you were the president?
Maybe.
I didn't know if people saw your face. Well, I guess it's in the magazine, but I didn't know
Yeah.
if they knew you, your name or whatever. Did you meet more people?
I did meet a few more people. Um, and then last year I was invited to speak at the Mid-Atlantic Fiber Association. I was invited to speak there, and that was fun. That was very nerve-wracking. Like, yeah, I need a little bit of hand holding sometimes. Yeah, but yeah, maybe people do. I hope people don't recognize my face as much as they recognize what we are doing, or
Oh,
when it comes to HGA, or what my work is. That's really what's important.
well, you also worked in art festivals or art markets. I don't know if festival's the right word, but and I was just curious. We have an image of you at one of your shows. What would you tell someone who's just starting off? Like, what would you wish someone had said to you when you first got it started doing these shows?
You have to be business minded. Okay, number one. And number two, it's very different than an art critique. So in an art critique, everybody gives you feedback, right? But when you do a show, you're sitting there all by yourself and everybody's walking past your booth.
Mm.
Okay, so how do I take this guy? How do you reinterpret those types of critiques? Or how do you manage people when all of a sudden everybody you know shows up, or everybody wants to tell you about their grandmother or their aunt who was a weaver in the mills in Rhode Island, and they know exactly what you do, right? Um, so those types of management, there's some interpersonal skills that I wasn't expecting that I had to learn. So, but it's fun. It's fun. And the hardest part too is lugging everything. Have a really good booth set.
Oh, right.
Yep. Like you probably know that because you do a lot of stuff for HGA, right?
Yeah, back
Lugging.
when we had our booth, yeah, it was
Yes.
backbreaking. I was younger then, though.
Right. So I think one of those job descriptions of artist is like schlepper. You need to, right? They never tell you that. Oh, I got into this art fair. Oh, great. Oh, right.
I'm always impressed at shows when I meet someone who's come up with a better, I don't know, the better wheel. They figured out a
Right.
way to, they either have rolling shelves that they never have to pack or unpack. They just,
Right.
put them on a truck or something like that. But
Right.
yeah, I did a show this past weekend and I don't know how many stories I've heard of spinning wheels from their grandmother and looms that someone made.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
And then
Yes.
the infamous, I have this loom, I'm going to give it to your guild. Please
Right.
don't.
Right. Right. Oh, I have a loom. Yes, that's not in my budget this month.
I think my grandfather made it. Oh, yeah, great. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what's next for you? Going to write a book, teach a new
Oh,
class?
uh,
What you going to
um,
do next?
I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and start weaving again. I'm a day by day. I do some things, I do plan some things out. I offered some classes, um, came up with some new, workshops. And
Mm.
if they get accepted, then I just have to work my butt off making samples, right?
I have a sneaking suspicion people are going to contact you about the shoes. You
Oh my
got a
gosh.
big
All right,
reaction to
you
the shoes.
cannot do it. Let me just say, it takes 2 full days to make a pair of shoes, and I guarantee that you will have at least one shoe done because it's not as much hand weaving as it is hand sewing. And you learn a lot about your foot and the way to form your shoes over your feet. It's a very inexact science.
Oh, it sounds great.
It's fun. It's totally fun.
Well, I'm going to contact my guild.
Oh,
All
wait
right,
a minute.
we have
Adele Harvey. Hi, Adele. I just saw her pop up.
we
Sorry.
got tons of questions, so
Okay.
let's hit those, okay?
All right.
Um, I'm not sure about that question. I'm going to go on to the next one. Where can we find the pattern for the shoes? Now, is that something you came up with, or you found it online, or?
No. Back in 2015, when I taught the class at UMass Dartmouth, right? I ordered it from Prym, Prym, and it came with the soles. Now you can't get it.
Oh,
Right. So there's that, or there's a place called, shoot, there's a woman who has a website for make your own espadrilles, and I'm sorry, I do not know her name off the top of my head. It is Sustainable Stitch, maybe, or something like that. And she has a pattern there. But it's hard. You can't find the pattern for espadrilles unless you make one. Oh, you can get a pattern from the 1982 magazine, Decorating and Craft Ideas. That's where I got my original pattern from. I'm serious. They give you the
wait,
measurements and
I have
everything.
that right here.
No, I found it on eBay.
Oh, okay.
I did. So after I wrote it in my journal, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to try and find this. But because I notated where I had written it from, I looked it up on eBay and I found it. It was like,
Did you really?
I
Oh,
really did. I
that's
still
awesome.
have the original.
All right. Oh, Mary, I can't see her last name. Sorry, Mary. Have you used Raimi? What would you say about it?
Oh, I have had a hard time finding Raimi. I would love to use it. I did find somebody who said that what I was using was Raimi. It couldn't have been. I didn't like it at all. I would love to find some Raimi. The there is but I'm talking about Raimi that's super fine for clothing. I have used some of the hand-tied Raimi that Rachel Snack sells from Weaver House Company.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's much rougher. It's more raw looking than for clothing. But
Okay.
I haven't been able to find a good source for Raimi.
Mary
I didn't
McMillan
look
says,
enough.
have you ever taken a thrown, have you ever talked to thrown net makers in Hawaii?
Oh, a happy stitch. Thank you. Have I ever talked to people in Hawaii?
To the net makers?
No, I have not.
Well, I think the Hawaii Guild needs to get you out there so you can teach a class on how to make shoes and then go do nets.
I have. Okay. So I thought, so this isn't totally a secret, but my daughter lives on Oahu. She's been there 12 years. She's never coming back to the East Coast. I go there all the time to play with my keikis, my little granddaughters. And
Oh,
I did teach shoes. I did teach espadrilles there, and I've done a couple of other workshops there. Hawaii has one of the nicest hand weavers guilds.
it's awesome. They're an
Yeah.
amazing guild. I love those guys.
Yes. Yep.
Well, if you ever need a schlepper for the next trip to Hawaii, let me know. All right. This is for Magdalena. There's so much fiber inspiration and fiber interest to pursue. How do you decide on your next piece or project? Do you have a few things on the go? Take one project at a time to complete? That's a good question.
I put on a long warp
Mm.
and I use a threading that will give me various structures.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of times I will use a straight draw, even if it's on 6 shafts. I'll use a straight draw. I will do M's and O's because I can get all kinds of texture from that, or a hop sack. And I rarely follow the directions. I just, yeah, I'm
That
tough.
surprises me.
But so to answer your question, I have 4 looms that I work on. I just rotate. I just keep on going. Most of what interests me is natural. Like I use a lot of natural in the warp and a lot of color in the weft. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of the way I work.
This is a good question. Oh, this is Sue. Hi, Sue. Sorry. How does one store the woven pieces with paper? How do you store that? Do you hang it up all the time?
What do you say? Ask me again.
The
I don't
woven
understand.
pieces that you have that
Oh.
have paper in them, how do you
Oh.
store those?
How do I store them? They're hanging up, or the paper, when I'm inserting the paper, they can't touch each other. All those pieces of paper can't touch each other as they're drying, because then they will stick together. So they all have to be spaced apart, so I can only do a little bit at a time. And then a lot of my handmade papers are stored flat. I have a flat file cabinet, and then my larger sheets I roll around a sonotube. You know, those big cement sonotube things that are like, I don't know, 2 feet in diameter. I wrap them around that to store them.
Karen LeBlanc wants to know, have you ever worked on pieces that would be displayed or exhibited outdoors, since you like to sisal and those other rope fibers?
I have not. Yeah, I have not done that with paper. Yeah, I have not.
Nadine Rogers wants to know, you've already talked about your favorite color. What is your favorite wool that you like to work with? Do you work with wool?
I don't work with wool. Nadine, this is a trick question. I
When did you stop beating your kids?
No. So for a number of years, I did weaving for Northlight Fibers. I did weaving for their kits, and I did stock weaving for them.
Really?
And and
I
they,
didn't know that.
oh,
I love Northlight. Hi,
I
Northlight. Hope
know.
they're walking.
It's the alpaca and the bamboo, and it is a lovely, lovely fiber. I don't have the vocabulary of wool, of different types of wool. I don't use it very much. I'm sorry, Nadine. I can't answer that question very well, but I did do it once.
People are putting in links to happystitch.com.
Oh yes, Happy Stitch is the place where you can get a espadrille kit, which is different. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. And a couple of people, I think a couple of people have done those that I know. So give it a try.
The HGA award ribbons are woven in Hawaii.
Yes, they are. Thank you, Ghislaine.
Good plug there. We love Hawaii.
Mhm.
Oh, people want to know what's behind you. I do too. Is
I
this
don't
your
know.
studio?
This is my studio. Should I? It's all right. There it is. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yep. So
How many looms do you have?
how many? No, what
Yes.
kind?
Both.
Both. On the floor right now, I have 6. I have 7 looms that are ready to be worked. I've got 4 that are put away. I have oh, by the way, this is a horizontal warping mill. It is free for anybody who wants to come and pick it up. You got to come pick it up. I'm sorry.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Well, yes, you need to take a drive to Rhode Island and come pick that up.
Do.
But so my husband moved one of our vertical warping mills. He turned it to a horizontal one to make it easier to wind. But then he's a weaver too. He now does sectional beaming.
Oh,
We have an AVL. So the AVL and the Big Mac, those are now his looms. And I have a couple of Norwoods and a couple of Maycombers, and I have an old Gilmore.
do you teach? Is that why
I
you
do.
have so many looms, or are you just?
Well, they multiply. So
I know, I got 5. Do I weave on all 5? No.
Well, I do teach. And I teach here, but I also, somebody said, yes, they do multiply, right? And you can't help it. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of them I do teach on, yeah.
So you teach there in your studio?
I teach in my studio. I teach in Providence at a place called the Handicraft Club, which is really cool. Lots of crafts for adults. And I also teach to any guild that's willing to listen to me, And I teach, I have another studio that I teach into up in northern part of Rhode Island.
Do you Zoom teach?
I could. It's not my best, but yeah, there's a few things I can do on Zoom.
Okay.
I learned how to do Zoom. I taught a paper making class on Zoom. Talk about, I was just like, I couldn't
Wow.
believe I did it. But yeah, that was my big experience. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Magdalena said that Ramie fiber for spinning is available at the Fiber Garden in Ontario, Canada, and that she's just ordered some and she has some coming this week. So she can't speak to the quality yet. But I
Oh.
never thought about Ramie spinning Ramie. That would be interesting.
Mm.
That could be an article for ss&D.
Yes. There we go. Cool.
Magdalene will
Good luck
talk to
with
you
that.
later.
Good luck with that. Have fun. Let us know.
Yes. Oh, Susie, it wasn't bad, was it? Wasn't this good? You
Yes.
did great. Didn't she do
Thank
great,
you.
folks?
Oh, stop it.
I'm sorry you were
Thank you.
so
Well,
nervous. You did beautifully. You really did.
well, thank you. You made it easy,
Yeah,
Kathy.
yeah,
You
yeah.
asked me some great questions, and
Look at all those hearts. Look at
I
those.
know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Susie, you have been a hoot. You've been so much fun. Thank you so much for being on here today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for asking me.
I hope I see you soon somewhere.
Thank you. Thank you.
Check out her website, realfibers.com, all kinds of information there. And you can learn more about Susie on her website and find out if you do want her to come and teach at your guild, which, like I said, I'm talking my guild. You can get those espadrilles made yourself. So thank you so much. And then we do want to thank our sponsor, A Place to Weave. Thank you so much for being our sponsor today. And what a fun one to do. Thank you so much. And if you would like to sponsor an episode of Textiles and Tea or your guild or your business, please go to our website at weavespindye.org and you can sign up. Go to the Textiles and Tea tab. It's in our drop-down menu and you can find out where you can sponsor an episode there. Or if you have any questions, call me and we'll talk. Thank you so much. Again, to A Place to Weave. Hey, Convergence and Small Expressions is coming. Can you believe it? Now, if you're not familiar with Small Expressions, it is such a gem that we have at HTA. And I'm so excited that we do have this because it is 15 inches maximum in any direction. And like I've said before, that doesn't mean you take something big and you make it smaller. You really have to plan for something small. And I'm always impressed what people come up with. It's an incredible exhibit and it also travels. It's this year at Convergence, we have a juror named Pauline Verbeek. She's from the Kansas City Art Institute. They have an incredible fiber studio. You should go see it sometime. And so we're excited to have this fiber woman who's going to be our juror. So it'll be open from July 2nd through the August 6th at the Wichita Sedgwick County Historical Museum, which is not far from the convention center. So when you're in town, be sure you go see it. And again, it's a traveling exhibit. It will, once it leaves Convergence, it will travel for a year. And I've been talking to some local conferences who would like to have small expression somewhere near their conference when it's available. So if that's something that you would like to do, contact us. We're looking for places for the small expression exhibit to go to next. Careers in Textiles is coming up. Now, this is a one-day conference. It's online. We have leaders and trendsetters in the field, and it's open to all. Now, it's really geared more towards students. We're trying to help students understand where do they want to work next? How do they go about doing it? What do they need to be doing now to find that great fiber job? So we've brought in all kinds of people in the industry to talk, everybody from Robin Spady to Jean Carter and Libby O'Brien. Lots of people are coming in for this. Amy Putansu, who's a professor. We've got people from schools who are going to come and talk. So it's really geared for students. But you will learn a lot if you watch. If you know someone who wants to go into fiber, or you have a friend, a niece, a nephew that's in school and you want some more information for them, please watch. It is free for students and HGA members. And if you're not an HGA member, it's only $20. And if you can't watch it live, as always, it's recorded and you can watch it for 90 days. We want to thank everybody who supported HGA through donations and through your membership. Your donations are what help these programs like Careers in Textiles or Textiles and Tea. Those donations help those programs get set up and keep them going. So thank you so much. And if you want to donate or join, you can go to weavespindye.org. Next week, we have Jenny Hawkey. We're excited to have her. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please join us next Tuesday, and happy tea.